Hey everybody, Jacqui Lewis here. Welcome to this second season of Love, Period. This season we're focusing our conversations on my new book, Fierce Love, a bold path to ferocious courage and rule-breaking kindness that can heal the world. Each of my friends will be helping me to think about the themes in each chapter, 9 practical practices that can help us love ourselves, love our posse, and then love the world into healing. It all starts with you, and we're going to give you practical tips to make these practices a part of your life. Today's episode is a culmination, if you will, of all of the themes in the book, Fierce Love, a bonus episode with my friend Abigail Disney. Abby Disney is an American documentary film producer, a philanthropist, and a social activist. In fact, she and I did handcuffs together, and I mean, we got arrested together. She's a kind, candid, warm advocate for a better way to make life in America. And I'm delighted to have a conversation with her really on love, period. I am so excited to see you today, Abby Disney. How are you?
I am great, and I'm just so happy to see your beautiful face, too.
We had like a drive-by sighting at our friend Rod's house, right?
Yes.
I'm going, you're leaving, you're coming, kind of thing. But I'm so glad. How are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, stressors here and there of all kinds. Finishing a film and all the stressors that come with that. And but you know what? I have to say, as far as the pandemic goes, I'm just so blessed because I didn't lose anybody close to me. Mm-hmm. Everybody's safe and sound. Somehow I was able to restore my marriage in that time.
Okay, what?
Yeah. I don't really understand how that happens, but it was very good. So there was good that came out personally for me, even if the country's a mess.
That's so great. I think the last time when we got arrested, I think we talked about that marriage. Do you remember that when we got arrested together?
Yeah. And in those days, I told everybody everything about it.
You were upset, and I understood that.
Oh, I was very angry.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable just telling us a little bit about what kind of love it is that can repair itself, during COVID? We'd love to know.
Well, first of all, I think everybody experienced the way COVID kind of just put everything into perspective.
Right.
And you looked at your priorities. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning of it all, I still was really angry. And it really took me a long time to get past the anger. And I started looking around me at the imperfections of people I call my friends, which are no worse or better than the imperfections of the person I was married to for so long. We had one final blowout, and I was done, and we were on the phone with the marriage counselor, and she said, "Are you out?" And I started to say yes, and he said this thing. He said, "Abby, you're my person."
Oh, Abby. He said, "You're my person?" Oh,
yeah. We've been together since we were 19. And from the minute we came together, we were each other's person. It was so true. And I thought, if there's any way to put this back together, it's worth doing because he's my person. And I don't even believe in that.
Do you believe now a little bit?
I do. It's a partnership that was made somewhere not on this earth, and I've been very lucky to have it for most of my life, and it's worth repairing.
Abby, can you tell, like if we're girlfriends having a glass of wine, how did you meet him? Just tell me how you met him.
Oh, well, he was the cutest guy in the college punk rock band, the Ice Cream Clones.
Okay.
And so I knew him all freshman year because he was so super cute. But of course, he would never go for a nebbish like me. But somewhere around Halloween, our sophomore year, you know how you go as a sexy carrot or a sexy bunny or whatever. Yeah. I was a sexy nothing in particular.
But a sexy something.
He was wearing fur shorts.
Okay.
I don't know where he got fur shorts from. But anyway, we started dancing together that night. And that was it, literally. I have not kissed another man.
Abby.
Since Halloween in 1979. Yeah. Yeah. So we have been partners through some hard things, some very hard things. And we have been partners through some great things. And we have 4 amazing human beings that are our children. And something must have been right about it, don't you think?
I am so deeply moved by this, by the story of reconciliation.
Yeah.
And how love can change, right? It can get stressful, tense, funky even.
Yeah.
But I don't know that when we really love someone, it goes away.
No, can't imagine where it would go.
Where would it go? Yeah.
And I know people who've divorced and they have these very embittered relationships, and it does make me wonder, maybe there wasn't love in the first place, or it was mistaken for something else, or I'm not really sure what. But, we had been together for so long. We were essentially children,
19.
He knew every story, and he knew my parents. He knew my parents so well that sometimes he would have horrible dreams about my mother, which I used to have too. It was pretty funny. That's how well we knew each other. And you share the burdens together and all those things. It's like being in the trenches. I couldn't just walk away from it. But I also came to an incredible appreciation for just how much reconciliation is to ask of people.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus wouldn't spend so much time telling us to forgive each other if it weren't hard.
That's really that's a quotable right there.
He didn't waste any words on the easy things.
No.
And that's what I kept telling myself. But I also knew, it was like this full bathtub. And, I could pull the drain and the water would drain out, but it wasn't going to drain any faster than I wanted, than it was going, no matter how much I wanted it to go away.
Yeah.
And that was the part about it, was that there had to be an element of patience. And I had to offer myself enough kindness to just be really mad.
Right.
I was raised in a way where anger wasn't welcomed by me. It was only welcomed from men. So I really struggled with the anger. And so I just, the bathtub, emptied, and then it got filled a little more, and then it got emptied. It wasn't a straight line. But over the course of 5 years, over a very hilly, bumpy period, we have, I think, found our way to the new and better marriage that we were always meant to have after the kids were gone.
I just am so happy that we're talking and we can see each other. Y'all can't see, but I can see restfulness and something like contentment on your face.
Yeah.
I'm so glad for that.
Yes. Well, thank you for that.
This book I just wrote, this Fierce Love book, Corey, my producer, and I have been working on, 9 guests now, and for each of the 9 chapters in this book, that is on its way to you with a love note from me. But, the first part of loving ourselves and loving our posse, our people, partners, spouses, and then loving the world. And in this book, I'm kind of joining you at, I'm going to call it fierce reconciliation, Abby. In this book, I illustrate the difficulty of loving self and loving posse and loving world with some of my own stuff. And this is a fresh new story. Corey doesn't know this story yet. So I write this book and I am honest, like you are honest, Abby. And there's some stories in here where the characters are my dad and my mom who make you, right? But also they got stuff.
Yeah.
And my dad's stories in here are about anger and how we express it and shutting down one's girl child. And then me rising up in my own voice and the conflict that causes. So 2 days ago, my dad calls me and says, I read this book cover to cover, and I love you so much. Oh. And this book is so beautiful, and I'm so proud of you. Wow. And I wish I had known more where you were hurting so I could have helped better.
Oh, my gosh.
But I love you so much. And I just think, that's why he's my hero.
Yes.
And how our love, the parent-child love, is a model, Abby, for what you just experienced with your husband, your partner, that we can rocky and get back. We can wrestle and get back. We can tough it out and get back. We can keep filling up the love bathtub, if you will. Why? Why don't more of us know that? Or how could we do that? How could we communicate that better?
Well, what you just described about your father totally surprised me, because I was in your story with you and thinking about how my father would react, and it wouldn't have been that way. So first of all, we aren't all raised by people with such a generous heart. My father was a good man. He was a kind man. He was a generous man. He was many good things, and he treated people well. People loved him. But at home, he had a drinking problem and a temper problem, and he could be violent. It wasn't frequent. But once is enough, really.
That's right,
because
Abby.
It's always now hanging in the air from then forth, and especially if he is really drunk, when he does something terrible, he doesn't even remember he did it. So all of that goes underground. All of that,
absolutely.
And if parents are like a lid on the pot, and it's just getting heated and heated and heated. And what are the atoms in there going to do, the siblings, but bump into each other and whatever else? So I was very much like, in the AA way of casting families. You always have like the alcoholic child, and you have the rebel child, and you have, I was the hero child. I was the one I was third out of four. I was the one who wanted to be noticed for what I was doing that was good.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was student body president, and I went off to Yale, and I did everything right.
Yes.
And not one thing could I do that they would not, find a way for it to be bad news to them somehow.
Oh,
when
Abby.
I started my foundation in 1991, they said, don't you understand what an embarrassment this is going to be to us? So,
Wait, a foundation is an embarrassment. Why?
Yeah, because I had gone outside of their foundation and started my own.
Oh, my.
So what you want to do is love your parents. What you want to do, because there are also all the good things they've given you and the right things they've said and the ways in which they were there for you. And when I had my tonsils out and my mom made the best mashed potatoes.
Right.
And all of that kind of thing. You want to, the hardest thing is to hold all of those things.
Yes.
But do yourself the kindness of acknowledging that you did not imagine the awful things, that they were in fact awful.
Yes.
And that you are right to be angry. So of all the things I think that challenges real love is the incorporating of those things together, the both and.
Right.
Unfortunately, 2 years before my father died, he left my mother. It was terrible, messy, awful. It was just horrible. And my mother was just becoming symptomatic with Alzheimer's. It was just, it was awful. And then he got cancer, and he died not long after that. And the whole time I was sitting with him next to that bedside, all I could think about was, hurry up and forgive him.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
you
right.
you got to get to the forgiveness before he dies. And I really couldn't get there. Like I say, it won't go any faster than it will go. And it makes me so sad because I'm still angry, really.
Yeah.
But I know he was a better man than that. And I know that he was indeed a very, very good man. But I wish I could have heard one, Abby, that probably, I'm so sorry.
Right. I wish one I of those, not done that.
Yeah,
just one of those.
Would have been nice. Yeah.
Did you read V's book, The Apology, Eve Ensler's book? This is, just to who's listening, Eve Ensler goes by V now. And this book, she writes the apology she needs from her dad. She writes it for herself. And she says it was such a healing exercise. Because we need that, Abby. We need, as a theologian, I can say, forgiveness shouldn't be dependent on the apology. But the truth of the matter is, the truth does set us free. Like the truth, when someone honestly says, I hurt you, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. That lubricates our relationship. It does. It makes a container for forgiveness and reconciliation. Like, I don't think there can be real peace without truth, right?
No. And that's, this is where the public and the private start intermingling, right? Because when you're trying to forgive someone for something, it would be a lot easier if they wanted your forgiveness. Yes, that's true.
That's true.
And it would be a lot easier if they would even acknowledge what it is you're forgiving them for. Like there is the political nightmare that we're living right now, because over there on the other planet, they're thinking the same thing about us.
Yeah.
They would love us to ask for their forgiveness. And we have plenty to ask for forgiveness for. They say we make fun of them and we're elitist snobs, and we are.
Yes.
And we should ask for forgiveness.
What did Hillary call them? The undesirables?
The basket of deplorables.
Deplorables.
Yeah. I mean, and so, my last episode of my podcast was with Gloria Steinem, and we were talking about a trip we were on together to North Korea. And one of the things she said was that, the dictatorship there felt like there was this one all-encompassing, unforgiving, unbending father in a household where the threat of violence was pretty much constant.
Yep.
And I thought about it to myself, and I thought, that is exactly how I feel right here. And the family is the atom.
Right.
And then the families come together and make a molecule, and the molecules come together and make whatever the state is. And if the atoms aren't sound, what are you building? And so what you build in your family, if it's a democracy, if everyone is equally respected, if everybody knows how to ask for forgiveness, because that's actually an art.
Yes.
And how to give forgiveness, which is a challenge. Then you imagine if that were happening in all of these families across the country, what a different political life we'd be living.
With a microcosm that is the, sort of nuclear family.
Yeah.
Had it at its nucleus.
Yeah.
Wellness.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go wellness and nimbleness and laughter and forgiveness and grace, right? And that would rewire the world. It would rewire the world, Abby.
Yeah. I have been thinking that, I've thought this for a long time. I remember I used to go to these conferences, and every so often they'd put Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama up on stage together. And the two of them were hilarious. They were like 6-year-old kids, because then when they were in each other's presence, they could not stop joking around and laughing. Yeah. They were on the edge of a giggle at all times. And I have to say, I felt in the presence of godliness.
Yes. Yeah.
When the two of them were together and I was listening to that, and that the laughter coming out of them that they almost couldn't resist was an indication of just how close they were to godliness.
Yeah.
And now this is the kind of awful contrast I suppose someday I'll have to apologize to the other side for. But when I watch the Trump rallies, there's constant laughter at Trump rallies. That's why people love him. He's very funny to them.
He's funny, yeah.
And all of the humor comes from deriding people, calling them names, mocking them, and that kind of thing. And that's the feeling of something not divine at all. That's a closeness to the opposite end of where energy is. So there's always in everything two kinds of laughter, and that's where you need to pay attention. If you're thinking of yourself as a family that's always laughing, but are you always laughing at something or someone?
Or is it someone? Yeah. That's such a wonderful, important nuance.
Yeah.
From a great storyteller. Yeah. Abby, I have a book on my shelf that is Bishop Tutu and the Dalai Lama together, and it is true. I mean, I think I want to say something about joy right there.
Yes.
So, I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
I have experienced the kind of derisive, insidious, almost evil laughter of people in my family system, both up close and far away at times, right? Sometimes alcohol drives people to meanness that they think, right? And we both have that story in our backgrounds, and in a way that the humor is a weapon, like religion can be a weapon.
Yeah,
Right? But I've also just, I think about, I'm going to just go to my dad for a minute, who is complicated, who also, drank. I don't know that he was an alcoholic, but the mean dad at drinking was not fun. You could be in a joyful family moment, and then the drinking would just get a little too salty, and then suddenly people's feelings were hurt, and then suddenly people were leaving. That kind of feeling, a spiral, right? You're like, wow, what's going on? No drinking for you. But the thing that he and Mom did, if I were to go, what they did well also together was, even in the hard places, I think we as children felt, you'll read the book and you'll see sometimes silenced and like, that's not good, and you can't be yourself and you can't be sassy. But this dad who reads my book and says, I love you and I'm proud of you, like there's always been that thread of them. Always a constant thread of, we will sacrifice for y'all. We will take you to every baseball, basketball, football, band thing. We will create a container in which you can express yourself artistically. Or, I mean, I could make a list of the things, and if I was going to try to analyze it, I would just have to simply say, though the love was not perfect, there was a lot of love there.
You mentioned a word earlier that is so important in this, which was grace.
Grace, yes.
And grace is God loves you no matter what.
That's right.
Just no matter what.
Right.
And grace is what we need to bring as parents to our families that we wish our parents had brought,
Right. Yes.
And I know my parents love me. I know that. But there were times when I was growing up when I felt it was conditional.
Yeah.
Or that it was being withheld.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was anything they did on purpose, and maybe it was just my poor self-image or what. But to come out of childhood with that kind of uncertainty,
yes, that's right, Abby.
It's a handicap in a lot of ways, because I opened myself up to cruelty, both from my parents and my siblings and from others, because I thought I might earn their love that way. And, I'm very lucky. Since we were just talking about getting together with my husband around 19, and he was a really good man. I'm really lucky because if I'd had a lot of wandering and a lot of trying different kinds of people, I could easily have been really hurt badly.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I was really lucky. And so, you're always trying to kind of bring that first relationship to fruition somehow. And if you leave for your adult life feeling some kind of lack that you've got to make up for, you could spend the rest of your life looking.
That's right, Abby.
To fill that hole.
I think that's a really beautifully said thing. And in Fierce Love, some people have asked me, like, why did you start with loving the self? And even maybe a little bit of question about, like, am I doing a self-help, self-care book? I'm really doing a save your life book because I do think that most of us, Abby, come into this world and there is a scar or a hole in our souls because there's not enough grace, let's just say, right? What's the class our parents take? I mean, how do we teach each other how to really unconditionally love a little person without so many barriers and boundaries and hoops and all the things? And so then we do move in the world looking, my friend Jim Loder would say, for the face that will never leave us. Like, I love that, right? Yeah. But that's not happening. And then you might end up in a funky relationship trying to find it. You might find up in drugs trying to find it because you need it.
Yeah, yeah.
So what could I do find myself wondering about raising little people to love themselves. How can we make it a purpose for adults everywhere?
Yeah,
to raise babies who love themselves.
I'm one of those lucky people who came out of my childhood and was able to kind of like sift through and keep the things that were good and kind of put aside the things that weren't. So when my instincts were taking me in the wrong direction, I was able to recognize it. And so I felt like I broke a cycle.
Good for you. Yeah.
And it was partly because my partnership with my husband, who was a deeply kind and loving man. And I think that no matter how you raise them, no matter how well you think you're doing, there's some way in which you're messing it all up.
Guaranteed, right?
You're like the goalie of their life, and nobody's going to notice you until you mess up. So I, as my children have moved into adulthood and they've come back to me with anger about this and that, I've been shocked, and it has really rocked me to my core. But as they've moved through that process, and thank God, I always left a little money aside for the therapy.
It's good to put it in your budget.
Everybody should do that.
Exactly. Did you hear what she said, everyone? Put a little money aside for therapy or a coach.
Absolutely. Exactly. And then little by little, we arrive back at a place where we are it's a little like reconciling in a marriage. Now we're in a whole new relationship, and this is a better one because everyone's telling the truth now.
That's right.
And that is kind of where I find myself with my kids, at a place where we've worked through the parts where maybe I was self-centered, maybe I spent too much time on the road, maybe this, maybe that. Maybe I was too heteronormative. That's a big one in my I messed up in 1,000 ways, all while I was trying and conscious of trying to do my best. So, I think that we should almost every person on earth, when they have that baby and this rush of feeling comes over you, and it doesn't just come over the mother, or the father, or whoever is giving birth, right? That OxyContin. Oh, sorry, not that.
Oxytocin. Oxytocin. Almost.
But that is that state of euphoria, and it's not even euphoria. It's like this is an astounding level of love. It's cosmic. It's divine. You can't believe you don't even know this person, and you would do anything to protect them. And your partner's right there with you. And it's not just oxytocin. It's because how is he also feeling that? Yeah. It's not just some biological thing. Like, I feel like I wish there were a way to take a picture of that moment in your heart and keep it with you, because that's your guiding star. That's what your child needs to feel from you, even when they've tried a drug you didn't want them to try. I mean, like, when they're little, they do things that disappoint you. When they're big, they do things that terrify you and make you even question whether you raise a child with good values. And so, like, again, Jesus wouldn't say all this stuff if it wasn't hard.
That's right.
Love them anyway.
Love your neighbor. Your child is your closest neighbor. Your husband, your wife, your partner is your closest neighbor. How do you love them as yourself? Yeah, I think I love the implicit in what we're saying of there will be just such disappointment and heartbreak because you love someone.
Yeah.
Right?
And isn't it you know what the awful thing about that is? Somebody said to me once that when your child goes through childhood, one by one, you have to drop every fantasy you had for them. And it's not that you're disappointed. It's just he's not going to be Einstein, and he's not going to be Chopin. He's not going to be Picasso. You know, so it's not an insult to them to say, I'm deeply disappointed that you're not Picasso. But there are these ways in which you have to sort of let go of everything that you brought and recognize that he or she brought everything that they needed, and that was more than enough. And that's a transition you have to make as a parent. You have to know that there is a moment you're going to have to arrive at where you look at them and see them for who they are uniquely, and they're the only person who ever existed who is this exact person, and they are a miracle, and you have to find your way back to that feeling that you felt that very first beginning.
That is just so beautifully said. I'm writing in the book a little bit about parenting, though I don't have children. I feel like I co-mothered my brothers and my sister and got grandbabies now. But I think it's true that in any kind of love, perhaps, if the intention is this human is going to unfold before me, I'm going to read this book that is this person. I'm going to just turn the page and discover, uncover, be surprised, be delighted, be infuriated by this person. And I'm out of control. There's nothing I'm doing that's going to make this person not who they are. Jim Loder would say love is the non-possessive delight in the particularity of the other. I love that. The non-possessive delight. So I'm not going to change you. I'm not going to fix you. I'm just going to see you. And the truth of that to me, the truth of that is also that we have to be able to be honest. And when our kids, I think we really kill each other's souls, Abby, not just our kids. But if we force the people we love to put on a false person for us, or a persona, or a patina, or a mask, or something, I think we erode their soul. Yeah. I don't mean to be dramatic, but I think, right? Like, I think it's soul death, little by little.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. There are myriad ways in which an individual, but also a family or a whole society can eat away at your soul little by little. And honestly, that's what I attribute my dad's mistakes toward the end of his life to, is that he was very powerful and very wealthy and quite well known. And one by one, the friendships that were real friendships from way back started to fall away. And they were replaced with friendships, kind of, except that everybody was relying on him for a paycheck. And they're not going to tell you the truth about yourself. And there's a Japanese beadle, is this beetle that eats the inside of the tree. And so the tree looks completely fine and then it falls over.
Right.
And I think that's what happens to your insides when you have too much power or privilege in the form of money or whiteness or maleness or any of those things. If you happen to have the trifecta, it's really terrible.
It's really terrible, yeah.
And so you got to have the truth tellers around you, and you have to have the soul strength to be told the truth.
Yeah.
And you have to signal to people that you want the truth, because people will assume you don't. It's hard. I mean, I'm in this position myself, and I'm really fighting hard not to be my father. And I can see all the ways in which it would be so much easier to relax into it.
Yeah. How do you love you well, Abby?
I wouldn't say I'm I'm a model of anything like that, because I still struggle with, epic amounts of insecurity about whether I'm doing the right things with my life, whether I'm keeping too much money for myself and should be giving more away, whether I'm spending my time. I mean, I'm making this film, right? And so I seesaw wildly back and forth between who cares what I think? And, just because you have the position and the money to make a film doesn't mean your opinion is any more important than anybody else's. So that's one side of the seesaw. The other side is dig down deep into your soul, look really hard, and ask yourself, are you right about this? Then do it. And so that seesaw is hard. And what's the most stressful thing to me is when people compliment me. And I know that sounds crazy. Applause makes me want to cry.
Wow.
And it's because I think I spent a lot of my childhood groveling for approval.
Okay.
And didn't get it. And right now where I am, lots of people will give me lots of approval, and many people will give me more than I have earned because of my name, because of my money, because of my position. And so I need to take every compliment and parse it and make sure I understand where it's coming from and weigh it. So that's exhausting.
Sure
that's exhausting. But I know the consequences should I go ahead and just let it all in. It will not be good for me. And I'd rather be exhausted from fighting this fight than turn into the person that I might turn into because I give up.
Wow. Abby. So in a way, you are seeking the truth in those exchanges, just candor, just real, sincere, honest truth, not blow smoke up your skirt or pants.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just have been really thinking a lot about truth the last couple of days. I write a note to my church every week, and the one today was about truth, just thinking about how easy the lies are. They just flow out of the mouth in the public square, just like, defense counsel for boys who take rifles on protests, and the testimony of folks who were just teasing when they thought they would make a meme about killing AOC. I mean, what? So I want to make a connection, just as a statement, between the power of truth as part of love. You don't want fake lies. You want true relationship, true communication as part of love.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that is a thing. I think that if the more lies that are in there, the more they act like foundations, but they're actually just made of dust, and the whole thing will come down eventually, unless the truth is really, really shared, and that's hard. That means saying, I hate to tell you this, but I did this thing I promised you I wouldn't do.
Right.
And I'm really ashamed. And the art of the apology is then to stop explaining and just let the other person be mad at you and sit with that for a minute. That's right. That's the hardest thing about the whole thing. But that's kind of, that's the space you have to be living in, is the constant exchange of that, It's love is a dialogue.
Love is a dialogue.
Yeah. And it has to be, the lies will kill it.
So, Abby, what do you know for sure about love?
What do I know for sure? I know for sure that love is not only a good, but it is probably the only worthy thing of committing a whole lifetime to. I try to test everything I do against my priority of seeking love in the world. And I fall short sometimes, and I try to course correct. I think love is present in every single human being, Hitler included. I think when you go look at a mass shooter, the first thing he does before he goes out and does that hateful thing is he kills his wife or his sister or his mother or whatever was the person that at one time or another he loved the most. And like he knows he has to kill that before he can become a hateful person doing hateful things. So I know that it's present in so many of the places you wouldn't expect to find it, and that people would surprise you when you go and you engage with them and seek that out in them. People would surprise you. And thank God they're full of surprises.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And when I say fierce love, what does that evoke for you?
It evokes all kinds of things about the way I am a parent. And also it evokes the way I think about social justice work. Because I, as I told you, I'm making a film about the way Disney treats its employees. And that's my name on that company. I don't have a role there. I'm not even a very big shareholder. But that's my name on that company. And I remember walking through those gates many, many, many times as a child with my grandfather, who greeted everyone and asked about their wife and their children and knew every name and picked up garbage from the sidewalk and said to me every time, "No one's too good to pick up a piece of garbage."
Right.
And I think about that as compared with where things are right now. And the flaw that has brought us to this place has been to allow ourselves, even just only in our business lives, to let love die. Like to just leave love at the door. So it doesn't distract us from these important decisions we're going to be making about whether to buy this company or sell this stock or whatever. Everything would be different if we hadn't driven love out of the public square, and out of what we think of as rational discourse. I think most discourse would be more rational if love were present and accounted for as an influence and a driver of behavior.
From your lips to God's ears, a prayer that we wouldn't leave love at the door, even as we do the business of life.
Yeah. So Gwendolyn Brooks, do you know the poem Paul Robeson?
Yes.
We are each other's business.
We are each other's business.
Yeah.
Oh, man, thank you for reminding me of that. Abby, thank you so much.
This has been such a pleasure.
For this conversation. It's just
such a pleasure. It's almost as good as sitting around in handcuffs together.
I know. That was such a crazy day.
I know, I love that.